Ladies and gentlemen, summoners and sorcerers, welcome back to DSG, and if you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe button down below and join the den folk. But with that said, guys, let's get straight into this video. We're going to be talking about Club Conquest team setups. Now, I will say this is not the most exhaustive list, and it's going to be broken up into two sections. First for that being mainly synergy teams, so we're going to keep factions together, teams together, films together basically, and the second part is going to be more hybrid related, and I'm going to try and avoid the super obvious hybrids. You know, you could always do like a hero lead, bubble, stuff like that, but you're going to try and keep those guys together, factions anyway, so I'm going to try and throw in some unique hybrids. At least I think they're going to be more unique than just your standard hybrids that you can throw in there. And I'm going to talk about teams that maybe aren't listed as well in the synergies that you could throw in there as well, but that's going to be more in depth once you get in there. So first off, let's head over to our synergy teams. So these teams, obviously, they're going to be faction related or film related, somewhere along those lines. And we're going to start off with number one over here. This is going to be the Frozen team. Now I will say the Frozen team has fallen off a little bit in my personal opinion. They are not what they used to be. Elsa is not what she used to be. I don't think any of these characters rank in the S tier anymore. That's just my personal opinion. So at best, Elsa is an A+ character, but even at that, she really is starting to fall off. And guys, I have a gear tier 8 Elsa, 7 stars, everything like that. And if I had a tier 3 speed zone, which I could possibly get soon, maybe that would make her that much better. But currently, you know, she's not as good as she used to be, but I would say this team overall is still going to be a strong team for Club Conquest, and you can put them as one of your Club Conquest defense teams. They're still pretty sought out there and a pretty staple defensive team, though I don't know how much longer that's going to be as more characters get brought into the game. That could obviously change. And I do have Dash out there, and I know Dash is kind of weird because it's not supposed to, this is supposed to be synergy related, but Dash is a pretty typical plug and play character. Dash here usually replaces Olaf, and that is usually with the Frozen team that we see, especially in a case like this. Is probably the best spot for him. Now, moving on to the next team over here, we do have the Oceanic team. Now, the Oceanic team, if you have Ursula, she might be a character you want to throw in there because she's going to give synergies with Davy Jones and Gantu. But besides that, this is a team you're probably going to use. The drop characters, it's completely up to you. There is no true lead for this team. Maui's lead isn't that impressive, but the core characters here are going to be Bubbles, Moana, and Stitch. Gantu, in my opinion, could possibly be the drop character, or Maui could be the drop character. I would say Davy Jones. It's just between these three characters here. Davy Jones, Gantu, or Maui are going to be your drop character. It's up to you who you choose. I personally, if I were to choose, it probably would be Maui, but that's just personally me. I haven't really used Maui too much, and when I have interacted with him, he's not super impressive, though I will say he does have some good synergies with this team. Now, moving on to number 3 over here, we have the Sensational 6 team. Pretty standard team. They are pretty sought after and a very strong team. A hard counter to this is going to be Baymax, because he's going to do the mass purge, but after that, and you're going to need to be able to purge taunts off of Donald and Goofy, and once you do that and you can get around to the other characters, you'll be easily able to get towards that Mickey before he does his Disneyland Forever, because that's going to really screw you guys up if it's not bugged up. Number 4 over here, pretty standard, Big Hero 6. There's not much I can say. If you want to be more offensive, you're going to work with Wasabi. If you want to be more defensive, you're going to work with Fred. So it's really up to you who you want to use, and that's all there is to it. Now, we're going to move on to Kingdom here. 5 and 6, two completely different teams. One, obviously, is Beauty and the Beast, and the other one has more Aladdin. It's really up to you. It really depends on also if you use that Princess team down below at number 7, but I would say between 5 and 6. 6 is probably the better team here just because of Beast and Belle, but it's up to you. A lot of people use 5 or 6. It depends if they have Beast and Belle. So if you don't have Beast and Belle, maybe 5 is more attainable for you and a better team for you. I would even consider throwing in Mulan in that team as well. But again, if you have that Belle and Beast, throw them in there. Now let's say actually you don't have Belle and Beast. Who would I choose with that Sheriff, Robin Hood, and Mulan team? They're probably going to be looking at Jasmine, to be honest, just because she's going to be that tank for that team. So that's who I would throw into that team to give it some oomph to it and give it some defensive might. And Raja's not a bad, you know, secondary. That's 6 man on the squad, so I would consider doing that as well. Number 7 here, we do have the Princess Squad. Now the Princess Squad's gonna be focusing on Rapunzel's lead. Rapunzel's lead is gonna give this team very good bonuses overall, And if you're going to be using Moana with the Oceanic team, then pretty much a team is set, and that's going to be the Princess Squad right there. There's not much to say about them. Merida and Mulan are going to be your offensive powers, and of course, the support characters are going to be Pocahontas and Belle. So it's really up to you guys. If you want to put Moana on the team, totally fine. If not, it's still a strong team no matter what. And with that Princess affiliated tower, it's going to be a very strong team. Number 8 here, we do have a pretty typical, Toy Story villains team. I've also seen people put Buzz Lightyear here. That's pretty common from what I've seen. For this team's good, a little more offensive as well. And they're going to be for that Toy Story tower, and pretty common to see this team using Lotto's lead and making sure Zurg does his damage. They're actually not a bad team, but they're not the strongest team. But with that Toy Story tower, this does give them a good umph to it. Number 9 here is probably going to be the most controversial team in my opinion, just because no one really uses this team anymore. I'm not gonna lie, and the reason why they're highlighted in purple is because this team is only very, very useful at Gear Tier 8. I will say every single character in this game seems pretty useful at Gear Tier 8. Maybe not Yzma, but most characters seem pretty freaking badass at Gear Tier 8. That's the only caveat with this team. Dash is probably the character where you can really just plug him in any other team. The rest of the characters aren't super useful, but as a whole, at Gear Tier 8, yes, I can see it. Number 10 here, we do have Hercules. Now you're going to be having to use Miguel's lead because there is no other lead. So Miguel's lead is probably going to give you Hercules team the best. And what we've seen since Hercules has now come out, they're a pretty freaking good team. So especially with Hercules here, he's a pretty good powerhouse damage dealer. So I haven't seen too much gameplay on it, but they seem like a very strong team to use. And but that doesn't mean they're going to be the greatest defensive team. But looking at this, they probably could be a pretty good defensive team as well, and it wouldn't turn my eye against this team. They could be very, very useful. Now, what are some other synergy teams you could use? The joke ones, the Ducks. They could be a team you could use if you wanted to. I don't recommend it the most because it's not the strongest team. Some type of other mythicals team could work if you did like Nightmare Before Christmas and with a hero lead, I'm not a hero lead, a Miguel lead, and possibly you throw in another type of mythical character, Merlin for instance, or Hades possibly to give some more offense. That could be a mythicals team if you wanted to. It's really up to you, but that mythicals faction still could use some work. But now with this Hercules team, I think the mythicals are going to be a force to be reckoned with. Now what we do need is Miguel to be farmable, and that'll be a lot better and not just a pay to play type of character. But that's going to be in the near future. Hopefully they put him into some type of grand campaign node and we'll be able to use Miguel, or they might make him more farmable once the Coco team comes into the game. Now this is going to be the synergy setups here. Nothing here should surprise you. They're pretty standard team setups, and I would pretty much go with most of these teams. I use a good amount of these teams, but not all of them. But looking to the future, hopefully I can add more and more of these characters into my Club Conquest team roster. Now let's move on to the main hybrids. On the main hybrids here, we do have this Belle Beast working here with the princesses. Can be a pretty good team. This is like theory crafting here with this team. You're gonna be using Rapunzel's lead. Now it just depends. Do you want more offense or do you want more support? I would say this team has enough support, so I would focus on using Mulan and maybe drop Pocahontas and keep this team Rapunzel, Merida, Mulan, Belle, the princess, 4 princesses plus Beast for that tank. That's what I throw this team in here for. Number 2 here we have the Onward Trio plus some mythicals being Miguel and Oogie Boogie and Sheriff. So if you want to be more offensive, you would put Sheriff, or if you want to be more defensive, you would put Oogie Boogie. You would be using Miguel's lead, but if he's with a Hercules team, this team may not work and you may just have to go leadless. You could also plug in whoever you want really with this team, with this Onward Trio. You can either focus more downtown or find more mythicals characters you want to throw in here. Maybe Hades and Oogie Boogie could be a good duo here as well. It's really up to you. These more hybrid centric teams, but remember with this Onward Trio, it's really going to be protecting Ian and ensuring that they get his AoE out, because it's going to be a big powerhouse. That's why I like using more tanky characters with them in order to make sure that Ian gets protected. Now moving on to number 3 here. Number 3 and 4, actually, these are teams in my tournament shard, and so I fought these teams and they're actually very difficult. I will say the caveat to number 4 though. Number 4, that one's going to be a Gear Tier 8 7-star team. So this team really shines at that point. I don't know how good they are at Gear Tier 7, but I would say if you can get them to Gear Tier 8 and you really like the Little Mermaid trio, by all means this team could work for you. But if not, might be a difficult team to use. Number 3 is going to be a hybrid team of Sensational 6 and Beauty and the Beast. You're basically taking the duo Belle and Beast. They're going to be the core of that Beauty and the Beast team, plus the core of the Sensational 6 team. You put them together, they're very good defensive team, and I've fought them, and they're very good. I think that's all I have to say about them. And number 5 here is going to be Maurice lead with other characters who can summon units. So all these other characters have summonable units. Not gonna be the greatest team, I will say that, but I think Ursula and Davy Jones may give you a little bit of run of your money, and plus with Maurice's lead helping those summonable units, they could bring some of them to life. So guys, that's really gonna wrap it up. If you guys have any other suggestions for Club Conquest team setups, please let me know down below. But these are the ones that I've come up with, and I think that'll help you guys get more focus for those Club Conquest teams. And I will say Club Conquest, you know, the rewards aren't the greatest, but still some people take it very seriously, and I respect that. So I want to help you guys get into that side. But you know, if you're not really into Club Conquest, then you know, maybe fattening up your rosters with some of these teams might help you down the road. You never know. There could be a mode where some of these teams could be useful, so never, you know, bat an eye to it. And I think you should always obviously be farming and going somewhere and getting some characters that could be useful in the future. So anyways guys, thank you so much. If you're enjoying Den Folk, please hit the subscribe button down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.